Thighs, you keep copies of all your accounts.
Michigan's Little Bavaria is our state's #1 tourist attraction, and it's right here in our own backyard.
Yeah, it's a place known for its German tradition, but how did Frankenmuth come to be? We're going to find out. Here's Hank Winchester. Hey, Hank.
Hi, Katie. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Frankenmuth. Coming up, you'll hear the story of how Frankenmuth came to be and why their history is so important to everyone that lives right here in mid-Michigan. That story's next in our special series From Frankonia to Frankenmuth. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. It's Michigan's biggest tourist draw, and it is right here in mid-Michigan.
Frankenmuth attracts millions of visitors from all over the world, which is really amazing when you look back at its very humble beginnings.
News 5's Hank Winchester is live in Frankenmuth with his series, a look at life from Frankonia to Frankenmuth. Hi, Hank.
Hi, Leslie and Katie. Good afternoon, everyone. You know, the Frankonian region of Germany is where Frankenmuth's original settlers came from. It's right inside here at the Historical Museum that you'll learn about their story. It was a difficult trip, but as you'll see in our series, definitely worth it. The year was 1845, and these 15 men and women left their homeland in Germany behind to begin a new life in Frankenmuth. Their future was uncertain, but they knew they would have more opportunities in America.
The Kingdom of Bavaria had passed laws saying if you didn't own so much land or have so much wealth, you weren't allowed to marry. And the idea behind this was it would prevent poor people from marrying, and so they thought they would have fewer poor people if they did that.
So as soon as they headed out to sea, many on board got married. Dan Habenstricker knows of the struggles the original settlers had in the beginning. They are well documented within these letters, sent from Frankenmuth back to family and friends in Neuendettelsau, Germany, and other small towns they left behind.
And so they tell us in their letters about how they had to clear this wilderness with huge trees and how they were getting lost in the forest. It was a real adventure, and of course, you could never go back home again. They didn't have the convenience of transportation like we do now.
Conditions here in Neuendettelsau got so bad that at one time, many of the people that lived in this small village didn't even have a home. But thanks to the efforts of one man, they not only found a new place to live in the new world, but they had hope for the future. That man was Reverend William Leahy. Pastor of a small church in Neuendettelsau. He helped form that first group of missionaries, hoping they would teach the Indians about God, while also improving their own lives.
That was the place where the 15 first settlers came and dwelled during the winter.
In Germany, Dr. Horst Becker is helping to preserve history. He founded this small museum in Neuendettelsau, which traces the tough move from Frankonia to Frankenmuth.
They had to work very, very hard. They were just put into the woods and had to cut trees, and for 2-3 years, they didn't have much more than they had here.
Inside the museum, the past is brought to life. And like the one in Frankenmuth, it serves as a way to teach future generations about a part of history so important to both countries.
I think we are proud of Frankenmuth, and the people in Frankenmuth and Frankenlust and Frankentrost and Frankenhilf are proud of the roots they can visit here.
Today, white crosses at a cemetery across from St. Lawrence Church in Frankenmuth honor those first 15 settlers. It was their hard work that helped future generations build Frankenmuth into the city it is today, world-renowned for its commitment to preserving its German heritage in the States while focusing on the future. And if you would like more information on Germany, Frankenmuth, and the tourist attractions both locally and abroad, you can log right onto our website at WNEM.com. We also want to remind you to tune in to Take 5 all week long, as does the Historical Museum here in Frankenmuth. We will continue our special look at Frankenmuth, Gunzenhausen, and the important ties of German heritage here in the States and also in Germany. That's all week long here on Take 5. Tomorrow in our series From Frankonia to Frankenmuth, we visit Gunzenhausen, Frankenmuth's sister city. Once again, the series airs all week long here on Take 5, and a special look at another part of our series on News 5 at 6. That's on Friday. Katie and Leslie, for now, back to you.
Okay, Hank, thank you very much. We're looking forward to that.
I saw all those stories, and they are all excellent.
I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, and you are watching a News 5 special report.
Today we're going to take you to a city that sits thousands of miles from mid-Michigan, but over the years it has developed a unique bond with one of our most unique towns. To tell us more, we join News 5's Hank Winchester live from Frankenmuth with his series From Frankonia to Frankenmuth. Hank?
Hi, Brian. Actually, right now you're looking at a live city cam shot of downtown Frankenmuth. And just for a minute, I want you to notice the architecture here in town, the onion domes on top of some of the buildings, and the glockenspiel you see right there in front of the Bavarian Inn. Well, all of these designs have been patterned after actual towns and villages throughout Germany. Today, you get a personal tour of one of those towns. It's Frankenmuth's sister city. It sits more than half a world away, but has a very special meaning to the people here in our little Bavaria. This is Gunzenhausen, Germany, Frankenmuth's sister city. A small European village of about 20,000, one that's history dates back more than 700 years.
It used to be an mainly agricultural town, a little bit of industry. After the war, much more industry, and starting about 75, becoming a tourist town.
Siegfried Rhein is a Gunzenhausen historian. He remembers the village's darkest days during World War II.
Many houses were destroyed, and the refugees had to find a place. This was not a very nice chapter in our history.
But it was actually because of the war that Frankenmuth and Gunzenhausen developed their sister city relationship. After World War II, President Eisenhower started the People-to-People program, hoping to develop unique bonds between certain U.S. and European cities.
It's important for the people of Frankenmuth that people don't forget their tradition and their heritage, where they came from about 150 years ago and later.
The bond between both cities was established in 1962.
Here is Frankenmuth.
And Frankenmuth is
6,500 kilometers.
Evidence of their special relationship can be seen all over town. Gunzenhausen, Germany is now learning from their sister city of Frankenmuth, Michigan, specifically trying to find out how to become a tourist destination here in Germany, something that Frankenmuth has already mastered. They added this glockenspiel to the town square after seeing one in Frankenmuth, believe it or not. And now just outside of the city, a large man-made lake is helping to attract visitors during the summer. The people of Gunzenhausen look to the future with optimism, knowing it was their relatives and friends that helped make Frankenmuth Michigan's top tourist destination.
And they made great efforts to establish themselves as little Bavaria. To us, it's a little bit astonishing, but, well, we are happy to see all those Schubladlers and so on of Frankenmuth.
If you would like more information on Frankenmuth, Gunzenhausen, or any of the stories that will be airing this week, you can log on right to our website at WNEM.com to get to some very interesting internet sites directly from our site there. And Brian and Les, you probably heard a lot of construction going on as we started to intro our story. Well, they're building a new hotel here in town. It's a Fairfield Inn, a commercial chain. But as you just saw, they are staying very true to the Bavarian style. That is very important here in Frankenmuth if you build on the main street to stay true to that form. Now, tomorrow in our series From Frankonia to Frankenmuth, we'll take a look at the tourism industry here in Frankenmuth. We talked to people in Germany who have visited Frankenmuth to get their reactions on our little Bavaria. Is it authentic? Well, you may be surprised to hear what they have to say. For now, back to you.
I think the folks in Frankonia need the Zender's recipe for chicken.
You know, chicken is not very popular over there, and one of the things people mentioned is when they come to Frankenmuth, they're surprised to see how popular chicken is because it's very meat and potatoes over in Germany, but they enjoyed the chicken here, too.
Well, that's good. Thanks a lot, Hank. Great job.
Enjoying this. Well, did you ever wonder what people living in Germany think of our little Bavaria?
News 5's Hank Winchester is live in Frankenmuth with more on his series From Frankonia to Frankenmuth. Hi, Hank.
Hi, Brian and Leslie. You know, to find the answer to the question you just mentioned, we decided to ask people living in Germany who have visited Frankenmuth what they thought of our little Bavaria. Is it actually Bavarian? Well, their answers may surprise you. Zenders, Bronners, and the charm of Main Street, Frankenmuth has grown into its own, a city rich in history, but focused on tourism. Their catch is experiencing the German culture right here in the States, and it's working. Every year, more than 3 million people make their way to Little Bavaria, and on any given weekend, 10,000 chicken dinners will be served up at Zenders.
I thought this is the Bavarian Disney World, you know.
Regina Finn is a journalist from Munich, Germany, spending time in the States. This is her first trip to Frankenmuth.
When I went to Zenders Bavarian Inn, I couldn't believe it, you know, because the waitresses in their dirndl, I've never before I've seen so many people in dirndl and lederhosen, because in Bavaria, you know, we don't wear it. Maybe at the Oktoberfest.
While Frankenmuth may not have looked exactly like her hometown in Germany, she was able to find some very meaningful connections at the museum.
Very amazing to have the name of my village here in the United States. It's really amazing, yeah.
One of Frankenmuth's first settlers came from the same small village in Germany where Regina was born.
Im Kleinen kennen wir die Bauernwurst macht, ne?
Not far from Regina's village in Germany is where we found Joseph Arnold, a butcher in Gunzenhausen, Germany, who spent time learning how to make sausage in Frankenmuth.
Frankenmuth is not normal America.
But even though he was thousands of miles away, Joseph felt at home.
I was very surprised about Bavarian Inn-Lodge, and that many people are looking for German styles. They are enthusiastic to see how to live German life. Yeah. It was for me great. 10,000 people are eating German food on one day. I didn't see this before.
Joseph and Regina didn't know what to expect when they came to Frankenmuth, but they both left with the sense of pride that their heritage has become so cherished in the city we call Little Bavaria.
They really made me feel at home, and I was surprised because they talked exactly in my language, because I'm from Frankonia, and they have exactly my dialect, and that touched me.
And tomorrow you can catch part 4. For now, Brian and Les, back to you.
Great job,
Looking
Hank.
forward to it. We've enjoyed your journeys.
Yes,
Thank
and
you.
if you want to find out more about Hank's journeys, you can log on to our website at WNEM.com.
But right now, we're going to log out. We'll see you tomorrow afternoon.
Bye,
Good night.
everybody.
Of course, educating our children is one of the most important priorities that we have, but are we doing a good job? And how does education differ in another country, and what can we learn from other systems? Well, News 5 Hank Winchester is live with more in this series From Frankonia to Frankenmuth, a look at student life abroad. Hank?
Hi, Brian. We're heading back to school today. I hope you're ready. We visited 3 schools when we were in Gunzenhausen, Germany, Frankenmuth's sister city, and there are quite a few differences between the German and American system. But there is one very important similarity, that in both countries there is a strong commitment to education and making sure your children are prepared for the future. Life as a German student is very different than that of an American. Elementary school is basically the same, but that's where the similarities end. 5th graders must choose between a traditional middle school or they enter gymnasium, a pre-college education. From gymnasium, they would head to university. From the traditional middle school, they would move on to a commercial school like this one.
This is one subject. You learn how to be in an office or how to work in a big factory. Or
It is here that students are taught how to answer phones, tight and balance a budget.
We are a commercial school and we have commercial subjects, and this is as a practice subject and not theory.
It gets you ready for the real world.
Yes.
Yes. Castine Gruber was a foreign exchange student last year in Frankenmuth. What did you think of school there?
Frankenmuth High School.
Yeah. What did you think of it?
Oh, it was very nice and they are all friendly to me.
Was it difficult?
No.
No.
If they do not succeed in different forms, then they have to leave the school.
Maria Zed is principal at this gymnasium in Gunzenhausen. Students enter at the 5th grade and stay until completing the 13th year. They are all college-bound and will focus their studies on math, physics, and foreign languages.
They cannot choose so often different subjects. There is a stock of subjects they have to take from 10 to 19. All must have 2 foreign languages, at least.
Is English a requirement?
English is a requirement from the 5th form up to the 11th.
Unlike some American schools, violence is not a problem in German schools like this one. Students are taught about values, religion, and there is always a psychologist on hand.
And then he came in, they like started blowing up and shooting everyone in the cafeteria.
The very day we toured German schools, violence erupted at Columbine High in Colorado.
A SWAT team rescued at least 15 to 20 students from the school.
News of the massacre stunned people around the world.
What we sometimes read in the newspapers is shocking if they come to school with weapons, pistols or guns or whatsoever, or bombs. Even bombs is terrible. And we are really shocked.
The German system, like the American, is not perfect. But in Germany, Maria says students are taught an important lesson about values that she says may be ignored in some American schools.
Most of our pupils understand what they should do and should not do.
And if you would like more information about this story or any of the stories you've seen in our special series From Frankonia to Frankenmuth, log right onto our website at WNEM.com. I also want to mention briefly that Maria did make her way here. Maria, the principal of the gymnasium you saw in Gunzenhausen, has made her way here to Frankenmuth and to some mid-Michigan schools, and says that she was very impressed with the way our teachers and educators are working to educate your children. One more thing for me to mention quickly. For your convenience, we have put all 6 parts of From Frankonia to Frankenmuth available on a VHS tape for you to buy and enjoy in your own home. Now, if you'd like to order those tapes for $19.95 plus $3 shipping and handling, you can call the number there on your screen. It is 1-888-544-2768. Brian and Leslie, parts 5 and 6 tomorrow. A look at the wood carving trade in Germany and also here in Frankenmuth. And also at 6 o'clock tomorrow, we visit Dachau, which was one of Germany's largest concentration camps.
Well, we certainly enjoyed it so far. Looking forward to tomorrow too, Hank.
Thank you.
All right.
It is a profession that has been taught for more than 1,000 years in one German town, and it's considered a true art form.
We're talking about woodworkers who have the ability to turn ordinary blocks of wood into works of art, and one of the most renowned artists lives right here in mid-Michigan.
News 5's Hank Winchester joins us from Frankenmuth with more on his series From Frankonia to Frankenmuth. Hi, Hank.
Hi, Brian and Leslie. Good afternoon, everyone. We are inside George Keilhofer's wood carving shop here in Frankenmuth, and here in the main entrance is where George likes to show off some of his works, like this beautiful wooden Madonna and small little wooden decorations like this guy here. But the real work, come on, it's back here. This is the wood carving studio. This is where students now come, dozens of students, to learn a craft that George learned in Germany more than 50 years ago.
See, this is all just laid out roughly.
With just a few simple tools,
You use the bevel side.
and a lot of natural talent, George Keilhofer can turn an ordinary block of wood into a work of art.
My father was a wood carver. Even he didn't come back from the war. I was interested in carving too then. That's when I signed up in local wood carving schools.
Tucked into the mountains of Germany sits this small town Oberammergau, where for more than 1,000 years, wood carvers like George have come to learn their craft. Students are taught the very same techniques that helped make George one of the area's most respected woodworkers. John Koft is a wood carving instructor in Oberammergau.
They give you a piece of paper and they said, okay, draw something, and later they give you a piece of wood, knife. But you need the school, definitely. Yeah. And the situation is that after the school, we are paid per piece. And so you must work fast and bring a good quality.
Changed to a 2.5.
After school, George Keilhofer quickly developed a reputation for both. Frankenmuth's very own Wally Bronner heard of George's skills, and in 1967 invited him to move from Munich to Michigan.
He was willing to go, and he's the one that came over here and was a delight to meet him. So I really never met him until he showed up in Frankenmuth. However, during other trips to Germany, buying trips for ornaments and nativity scenes, I did look up George, who lived in Munich, Germany.
He was a customer. He bought carvings at the shop I used to work for, so they chose me because they wanted a happy Bavarian with the lederhosen and so forth. And I guess I fit that pattern. And I leave a little extra here.
Today, George is passing on what he learned in Germany to a room full of eager students, hoping one day they too will be able to create a wooden masterpiece.
I have one coming right now. He lives south of Battle Creek, so it's 160 miles one way for 3 hours of classes. So that means a lot to me, and I think it means a lot to Frankenmuth too.
It sure does. And you may recognize this piece of work. George was working on this when we interviewed him a few weeks ago. It is now complete and will be making its way to a small church in Heartland, Michigan. If you would like more information about wood carving, George Keilhofer's shop, or our trip to Germany abroad, you can log right onto our website at WNEM.com. For now, Brian and Les, back to you.
He does incredible work. That piece
Just
behind
beautiful.
you is just gorgeous.
Just beautiful work. I'm just amazed by it. I can hardly carve anything out of a little stick. But George takes these huge blocks of wood and makes this beautiful art.
How long do you think it took him to make the piece of artwork behind you here?
Why don't I ask him? George, how long did this take?
It took me about 125 hours.
About 125 hours, just the carving, but you can see the finish on it there, and it will be beautiful in that church.
It will. Thank you so much, Hank. We've really enjoyed your reports all week long.
Thank you.
It's a part of history that should never be forgotten and never will in one German city. Dachau was one of Germany's largest concentration camps and now serves as a reminder of a painful past. And as thousands of prisoners of war were trapped, German natives in Frankenmuth were working to put an end to all the madness. News 5's Hank Winchester is live with his final part of his series From Frankonia to Frankenmuth. Hank.
Hi, Katie. You know, during the Second World War, the people of Frankenmuth were put into a very difficult position. They were basically told to ignore their German culture. In fact, in many of the schools here in town, German wasn't even allowed to be taught in some of the schools here in Frankenmuth. But as you will see in our series From Frankonia to Frankenmuth, why Hitler was in power, the people here in town were working desperately to support the American war effort. These were Germany's darkest years. Adolf Hitler was in power, and Jewish citizens began to lose any rights they had.
On November the 9th, Jewish shops and businesses were plundered, synagogues destroyed, and Jewish houses and schools set on fire.
Jews left homeless by the attack were arrested and sent to Germany's first and largest concentration camp, Dachau.
On March the 21st, 1933, the Munich press announced the opening of the first concentration camp near Dachau.
During the next 12 years, more than 200,000 Jews would enter Dachau. If they were lucky, they were fed once every other day. They worked hard, and sadly those unfit to work were killed.
Dachau. Anyone who was sent there had to give up three things at the portals of the camp: his property, his rights, and his human dignity.
This was the crematorium at the Dachau camp in Germany. Most who entered these gates didn't make it out alive. But as the war dragged on, German immigrants in Frankenmuth were working in their own way to put an end to it.
Back in those days, Frankenmuth was quite a more isolated or a clustered community where people from other communities might think, well, what are these Germans really, what's their real allegiance here in Frankenmuth?
They worked hard to prove their allegiance. Employees at Universal Equipment sold enough war bonds and collected enough metal to build a fighter plane that was used in World War II.
They really had to take the extra step to really show that they truly were patriotic Americans.
Help finally arrived in 1945. The Jews were freed, and most of Dachau was burned. What remained became a museum and a memorial. Dachau has only been open to the public here in Germany for about the last 15 years. It is now here to teach people from all around the world about a part of history that should not be forgotten.
It's a valuable part of life that you need to understand what is going on and what has happened in the past to prevent it from happening in the future.
Dan Wagner is a serviceman originally from Wisconsin, now stationed in Germany. This is his first trip to Dachau.
It makes you realize what you're doing and why you do the service that you do nowadays to keep this from happening ever again. It hits you what has occurred here and what has happened during the war and the people that lived here and in the conditions that they did live.
When you tour the former camp, you're educated in the museum and shown what the barracks would have looked like. As you pass the old watchtowers, you're directed into the original crematorium, where for more than a decade, these ovens were in operation.
It's always chilling when you get to look at something like this.
Mark Becker has an uncle that spent time in Dachau. He traveled from Washington with his family to see what's left of the former concentration camp.
We get home tonight, I want to call him, because obviously he's in his upper 80s at this point. But, he talked a little bit about it. He spent some time actually in different camps, and he's kind of got a unique story.
The stories learned and shared at Dachau are ones that will never be forgotten. It was a war that divided a nation, cost millions of lives, and united a group of German immigrants in Frankenmuth that proved their allegiance to their new home in America. And for more information on Dachau or any of the stories we've brought you from Germany this week, you can log right onto our website at WNEM.com. Katie, back to you.
Okay, Hank, excellent series. Thank you, Hank.
Thank you.